Hi, I'm Seth. I'm 29, and last month, my parents sued me so my sister could own her first home. The home in question? Mine. The one I worked 2 jobs to buy. They said I didn't really need it, since I don't have kids. And the worst part? I found out about the lawsuit when a process server showed up while I was fixing a client's HVAC system in a Heatwave. But let's rewind. Because this doesn't start with court documents. It starts with a graduation party, a crooked smile, and a promise I made when I was too naive to know better. I come from a family where expectations are currency. You either meet them or owe someone. I grew up in upstate New York, in a weather-beaten 2-story house with a slanted porch, peeling paint, and a mom who could make casseroles out of anything. My dad, Greg, worked construction. My mom, Janice, worked overtime in expectations. There's also my sister, Ella. The golden child. She's 4 years younger, all big eyes and charm. Growing up, I was the one with chores and curfews. She was the one with sleepovers and sympathy. She's the baby, my mom always said. Let her enjoy things. I started working at 16. First job, stocking shelves at Carlson's grocery. Moved to landscaping in the summers, then HVAC trade school right after high school. College wasn't even a debate. I didn't apply, didn't visit. My dad called college debt a scam unless you wanted to be a doctor. I didn't. I just wanted to get out of that house. By 23, I had my own business card. Seth Carter, Heating and Air. I drove a beat-up van with a crooked decal and carried a laptop with billing software I barely understood. But it worked. I worked. 7 years of 12-hour days later, I bought a house. Small, 2-bed, 1-bath, but mine. A quiet street near the Hudson River. Peach siding, detached garage. I installed the AC myself. Laid the floors one weekend with a friend who owed me a favor. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Ella, meanwhile, had a glow-up straight from a sitcom. College, sorority, marketing degree. She was the first Carter to walk across a stage in a cap and gown. The entire family rented an Airbnb near campus. Mom cried through the ceremony. Dad took over 300 photos. Me? I clapped and smiled and paid for the family dinner afterward. Because that's what I did. I paid. For broken water heaters, for tires, for Ella's junior year rent when she got ghosted by a roommate who bailed mid-lease. They always said, "We'll pay you back." But they never did. I stopped asking. The shift happened slowly. At first, it was just subtle comments. "Your sister's trying so hard, Seth. You don't know what it's like trying to rent as a young woman in this economy. She deserves a shot at stability." Then came the first real ask. "Would you ever consider co-signing on a mortgage?" My mom asked over dinner one night. I blinked. "For Ella? She found a townhouse she loves," Mom said. "But she needs someone with your credit. I worked 10 years for my credit. She's your sister." I said no. Flat out. It wasn't even dramatic. I just said no. It was a Tuesday. A week later, I noticed Ella wasn't texting back. Then Mom started guilt-tripping me in layered tones. "You always talk about family, but where's that energy now?" I should have seen it coming. But I didn't. Not until the knock at the door. I was underneath the unit when my phone buzzed. "Hey bro, heads up. Mom's in one of her moods." Then a man in khakis and a black polo approached. "Seth Carter?" I stood up, wiping grease on my pants. He handed me a thick envelope and left. Inside, a petition to transfer title of my house to Ella, citing unfair enrichment, family equity, and verbal promises. All garbage. But it was real. Filed in family court. With my parents listed as co-plaintiffs. I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't call. I didn't knock. Dad opened the door like nothing was wrong. "Hey, sport. Hungry?" I held up the envelope. "You sued me." He nodded, serious now. "We need to talk about the future." Mom stepped in. "Ella needs a place to raise her daughter." "What daughter?" "She's pregnant," she said, like that justified everything. I stared. "So you decided to steal my house?" "No one's stealing anything," Dad snapped. "We're setting things right. That house was always meant for both of you. You didn't help me buy it." But we raised you, Mom said. I laughed. It was that or throw something. So this is repayment? You think I owe you my house? Don't be dramatic. You put your names on a lawsuit. Because talking didn't work. They said Ella was stressed. That I didn't understand what it meant to carry a child alone. That her boyfriend had bailed and she was terrified. That I had the space. That I'd said once, when she was 16 and scared of the future, I'll always look out for you. Apparently, that counted as a contract. I told them I'd fight it. That they were insane. That no judge would take a home from a working adult and hand it to a pregnant sibling based on vibes and guilt. Mom's eyes narrowed. We'll see. I left. That night, Ella finally called. Don't be mad, she said. You're suing me. It's not personal. That was when I knew she'd bought into the fantasy. That I was just a name on a deed. That my work, my time, my entire adult life, was secondary to her narrative of being a struggling mother-to-be. I got a lawyer the next morning. And I started digging. Because if they were playing dirty, I'd play smarter. But I wasn't prepared for what I'd find. Or who was really behind it. When you lawyer up against your own family, people treat you like you lit a match in church. Nobody says it out loud, but the judgment hangs in the air like burnt toast. My lawyer's name was Nadia Velasquez, mid-30s, sharp bob, sharper voice. She didn't flinch when I slid the court summons across her desk. She scanned it, eyebrows rising just slightly. Your parents are suing you, for your house? I nodded. She flipped the page. And your sister's argument is that she has a moral claim to your property because you once said you'd always look out for her? That's the gist of it. Nadia snorted. Jesus. People usually wait until someone dies to go full feral. I liked her immediately. She explained that it was an uphill battle, for them. Not me. No written contract. No shared mortgage. You paid the down payment solo, right? Every penny. She nodded. Then unless they've got a surprise recording of you saying, hey sis, here's a house for your uterus, they don't have a legal leg to stand on. But then she frowned. What? They've filed in family court, not civil. That's unusual. They're trying to make it a guardianship-adjacent case. The judge assigned to this docket? Big on restorative justice. Loves mediation. Mediation? Yeah. Basically court-mandated family therapy. You sit in a room, and they try to get you to work things out without a ruling. I laughed bitterly. So they're hoping I'll cave. Exactly. Pressure you into giving something up. Maybe partial ownership. I felt the familiar itch in my jaw, the one I get when I know a fight's coming. Then Nadia asked, how bad do you want to win? As bad as I wanted that house. Then we don't just defend. We counter. So we filed the countersuit. Harassment, emotional distress, property defamation, every relevant clause we could find. I even gave her screenshots of texts from Ella over the years, little guilt trips, money asks, her telling me I should just let her crash there for a few months after graduation because you don't even use the guest room. My parents had chimed in too. Just let her stay. You're being selfish. It wasn't smoking gun material, but it built a pattern, a long-term setup where everyone assumed my life was theirs to requisition. In the meantime, the court sent a mediation date. And that's when the circus started. The week leading up to the hearing, my parents turned into campaign managers. They called every cousin, aunt, church friend, and Facebook group they belonged to. Suddenly, I was getting texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. Hey, heard about the situation. Just wanted to say family's more important than pride. One aunt sent a video message. A video. Seth, sweetheart, you're such a strong man. Don't let your ego get in the way of doing what's right. That house is just a thing. A sister is forever. A thing. Ella, meanwhile, posted a photo of her ultrasound on Instagram with the caption, fighting for a home where my child will feel safe and loved. Hashtag single mom strong, hashtag family matters, hashtag do the right thing. She didn't tag me, but the comments were brutal. Hope your brother grows a heart. Shame on whoever's keeping this queen out in the cold. People with no kids don't get it. I didn't reply. I didn't post. But I started keeping receipts. Every time someone messaged me about being too harsh. I added it to a folder. When Ella's best friend DM'd me, "You're gonna feel real stupid when you're an uncle and your niece has no crib," I screenshotted that too. Because here's the thing, it wasn't about a house anymore. It was about rewriting my life like it was a group project. I built something. They wanted to redistribute it. Not through love. Through manipulation. Mediation day came. It was held in a neutral office. Beige walls, cheap carpet, coffee table full of highlights magazines and passive-aggressive parenting pamphlets. Ella walked in first, wearing soft blue and a baby bump that seemed perfectly posed for sympathy. My parents followed. Mom gave me a look like I'd killed someone. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. The mediator, a man named Martin with round glasses and a permanent fake smile, introduced himself. "We're here today to find a path forward. One that honors each party's needs." He gestured for us to sit in a circle. Ella went first. She talked about stress. About safety. About not wanting her child raised in a shoebox apartment with peeling paint. About wanting to build generational healing. She never once mentioned how she planned to pay for anything. Mom chimed in. "Seth, sweetheart, you've always been responsible. You're strong. You don't need the house. You can start over. Ella can't." I stared at them. Then Martin turned to me. "Seth, how do you feel about your sister's request?" I kept my voice calm. "I think it's not a request. I think it's a hijacking." Mom gasped. Ella blinked like she was shocked I didn't immediately burst into tears and hand her the keys. Martin nodded slowly. "Tell us more." So I did. I paid for that house working 70-hour weeks. When my transmission went, I biked in the snow. I went 3 years without a vacation. I didn't do it so someone else could play house. "Language," Dad muttered. "I'm not being cruel," I said. "But I'm not donating my life's work so someone else can cosplay stability on Instagram." Ella sniffled. "I thought you loved me." "I do. Enough to say no when you're being entitled." Martin tried to interject. "Let's take a break." But Ella cut in. "You said I could always count on you." I met her eyes. "Not to give you my home." The rest of the session was downhill. My parents grew cold. Ella cried. Martin said we were at an impasse. That night I got a text from my dad. "You made your mother cry. I hope it was worth it." I didn't respond. Then, the next morning, the real twist landed. Nadia called me at 7:43 a.m. "Hey, you sitting down? What's up? We got an anonymous envelope." "From who?" "No return address. But it had a flash drive. And? I'm sending it to your email now. Open it." I did. There, in a grainy video dated 4 months ago, was Ella, sitting at a bar with her boyfriend. The one she claimed had ghosted her. They were laughing, drinking, kissing. And then she said it. Clear as day. "If this goes bad, I'll just play the single mom card. Seth's house is just sitting there. He owes me." I sat there frozen. Jaw locked. Nadia spoke softly. "We're not just going to win, Seth. We're going to bury them." The clip was 37 seconds long. 37 seconds that blew a 2-month legal circus wide open. I must have watched it 10 times, heart pounding like a drum in a coffin. Ella, with her signature smirk, wine glass in hand, laughing to her boyfriend as she laid it out, the plan, the manipulation, the entitlement. "If this goes bad, I'll just play the single mom card. Seth's house is just sitting there. He owes me." The boyfriend snorted. "You think he'll give it up? He won't have a choice. My mom's already on board." She said it's time he gave back. I paused the video and stared at the frozen frame. Her expression was the most honest I'd ever seen, light, playful, predatory. She looked like someone who had never paid for consequences in her life. Someone who thought the world bent to love and aesthetics. I called Nadia. "Who sent this?" She didn't miss a beat. That's the $1,000,000 question. "No idea?" Envelope was dropped off in our after-hours box. "No prints. But someone clearly wanted you to see this." "And legally?" She inhaled. "It's nuclear. You've got clear evidence of premeditated manipulation, conspiracy with a family member, and direct intent to defraud." In English? We're about to make them regret everything. We submitted the clip to the court as part of our motion to dismiss the case and impose sanctions. The next week, our emergency hearing was granted. And then everything shifted. The courthouse was colder than usual that morning. The kind of sterile that makes your breath feel like a crime. I wore my cleanest polo, jeans without holes, and boots with the laces double-tied. I needed to look like the person I was, working class, steady, and very, very done. My parents were already seated. My mother wore her church forgiveness sweater. My dad didn't look at me. Ella arrived last. Alone. She didn't smile this time. The judge, a small, silver-haired woman with the kind of voice that could freeze lava, called the room to order. We're here to assess new evidence submitted by Mr. Carter's counsel. Nadia stood. Your Honor, we're submitting a video file entered under seal. It reveals that the plaintiffs, primarily the sister, Ms. Carter, pursued this lawsuit under knowingly false pretenses. We believe it will demonstrate abuse of process, fraudulent intent, and an attempt to emotionally coerce the defendant. The judge nodded. Play it. They dimmed the lights. The video played. Ella's voice rang out, crystal clear. Just play the single mom card. Seth's house is just sitting there. When it ended, the silence could have swallowed the sun. The judge looked at Ella like she'd sprouted horns. Ms. Carter, she said, do you have a response? Ella opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was just venting. My mom finally broke in. She didn't mean it like that. She was scared. Ma'am, the judge snapped. This is not the time. Dad finally spoke. It's just a house. That did it. I stood up. No, I said. It's not just a house. It's my life. It's 10 years of skipping trips, pulling overtime, going to jobs in January when the heat's busted and the pipes are screaming. It's falling asleep with my boots on and waking up before the sun. It's me building something nobody helped with. I pointed at Ella. And she tried to take it. Because she thought being pregnant made her entitled to my life. The judge sat back. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Then, to their side. Unless the plaintiffs have a legal defense for what we just heard, I'm ready to rule. Their lawyer, some guy they'd hired off Google reviews, looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Dismissed with prejudice, the judge said flatly. Counterclaims may proceed. Mediation is no longer advised. And just like that, it was over. In the hallway, my mom tried to stop me. Her voice was tight. You didn't have to embarrass us. I didn't record that video. We were trying to help Ella. I stared at her. You threw your son under the bus. And called it parenting. She blinked. She's carrying a child. I was carrying this family. For 10 years. You just didn't like that I stopped bending. Ella didn't speak. She sat on a bench, staring at her hands. I walked past them, out into the light. And that's when I saw her. A woman in her late 20s, leaning against a silver Civic in the courthouse parking lot. Brown hair in a messy bun. Sharp eyes behind glasses. She waved slightly. I didn't recognize her at first. Then she said, I'm Claire. We went to high school together. I was in your math class. Your sister's friend. I blinked. Right. Claire. Hey. She smiled faintly. I sent the video. I stared. She laughed nervously. Ella posted it to her close friend's Instagram story. Like an idiot. I screen recorded it. Why? She sighed. Because I remember you. You were always decent. Quiet, but decent. And Ella, she was always good at making people feel small. Claire looked down. I was tired of watching her get away with it. I didn't know what to say. She handed me a small card. If you ever want to grab coffee. No lawsuits involved. I took it. That night, I sat on the back porch of my house. My house. Cold beer in hand, boots kicked up, the autumn air sharp against my face. The stars were out, like someone spilled salt across the sky. Inside, everything was quiet. But the war wasn't over. See, the court threw out the lawsuit. But Nadia had filed the counterclaim. And next week, depositions would begin. And the person I really wanted answers from? Wasn't Ella. It was my dad. Because I finally saw the check from 4 years ago. The one Ella used to pay for her spring break trip to Miami. It came from his account. And the memo line said, "From Seth's savings, he won't notice." The check was dated March 14th, 4 years back. A $1,200 withdrawal labeled in handwriting that wasn't mine. From Seth's savings, he won't notice. My name. On my father's check. Written from his account. For her trip. I stared at it for 10 full minutes like it might change if I blinked hard enough. I'd only seen that handwriting on birthday cards and bank envelopes when I was 16 and thought, helping the family meant emptying my summer savings for a car my dad never got around to fixing. Nadia tracked the check down when we prepped depositions. It came from one of Ella's old accounts, which had long been inactive. She asked where the money came from. Ella claimed it was a gift. When pressed, she admitted, "Dad said it was extra from a job Seth did. That he just moved it over." I never authorized that. Not once. It wasn't just a lawsuit now. It was theft. It was fraud. It was family betrayal layered over with smug entitlement and pretty Instagram filters. I added the check to the counterclaim. Dad was scheduled to be deposed the following Thursday. But he didn't show. Instead, I got a voicemail. "Seth, it's your dad. Look, this gone too far. You've made your point. We can work something out, alright? You don't have to burn the whole bridge." The bridge was already cinders. Nadia pushed to subpoena his records. We found more. Little payments from my parents' joint account to Ella. Rent money. Car payments. One labeled utilities, Seth's share. Apparently, I'd been paying bills I never saw for an apartment I never lived in. I confronted them. Not in court. Not through lawyers. I drove to their house unannounced on a Sunday, just like old times. The lawn still had the same plastic squirrel in the flower bed. The porch creaked the same. Mom opened the door. "You shouldn't be here," she said, arms crossed. "Neither should half your lies," I replied. Dad was on the couch, watching TV with the volume up, like it could block out truth. He muted it when I stepped inside. "You used my name," I said. "You moved my money. Paid her rent. Covered her spring break. Then acted shocked when I didn't hand over my house like a spare jacket." He shifted in his seat, rubbed his eyes. "It was easier. Easier. Not right. Not fair. Just easier. She needed help," Mom said. "So did I. That stopped them. I don't think they ever thought of me as someone who needed anything. I was the fallback plan. The workhorse. The one who didn't complain. The one who made their lives easier." "She said you'd understand," Mom whispered. "She lied," I said. "And you believed her because it let you keep pretending you raised 2 equal kids." Then I handed them a letter. Printed. Simple. Direct. I was dropping the counterclaim under one condition: total severance. No contact. No more requests. No financial ties. No inheritance, no visits, no phone calls. Just silence. I'd pay to have it notarized. All I wanted was peace. Dad didn't say a word. Mom's eyes welled up. "You're throwing your family away." "No," I said. "You already did." I walked out the door and didn't look back. Not even when it slammed shut. The papers were signed the next week. Ella never showed up to another hearing. Her lawyer quietly withdrew. I heard she moved in with a friend 2 towns over. Still posting curated captions and baby bump selfies, but now with fewer likes and no grand declarations. The court closed the case. I stayed in my house. The home I'd built with busted knuckles and spreadsheets on late nights. The silence was different now. Not heavy. Not suspicious. Just still. One Saturday, I got a knock at the door. Not a process server this time. Claire. She held 2 coffees and a small cardboard box. "You left this in the parking lot," she said. The card she'd given me. I smiled. Guess it found its way home. We sat on the porch. She talked about work. I talked about HVAC nightmares. We didn't mention Ella. Or lawsuits. Or betrayal. But before she left, she looked at me and said, You know, a lot of people would have gone nuclear. Sued them into the ground. Posted everything. I shrugged. Sometimes the cleanest burn is walking away. Still, that kind of peace takes work. Tell me about it, I said. I used to think fixing broken things made them whole again. Now I know better. She stood. Still worth fixing though, right? I looked around. My house. My porch. My quiet. Some things, I said. Others, you just learned to live without. She nodded, handed me the extra coffee. Just in case you'd get tired of living without people. Then she left. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like the one left behind. The house stayed quiet. But it no longer felt empty. It felt earned. And finally, mine.